So because he is a man, and even though he was empathetic, even though he was sweet, even though he was kind, even though he was loving, even though he was nurturing, even though he was giving, he's still a man, like a traditional heterosexual man raised in the patriarchy. And so his emotional attunement to himself was lacking. Like it was just so interesting that he was incredibly attuned to my emotional state. Like I could feel like I'm hiding my emotions and I will say I'm a hard on your sleeve kind of gal, but I have gotten better. I have gotten better over, especially working in corporate America, of like not showing everything I feel on my face, but not with my husband. My husband knew exactly how I was feeling when I was feeling it. And if he knew what I was like, he would address it. Like he was great at reading my emotions, but when it came to his own emotions, y'all, and if he sees, I hope I not say I hope he doesn't see this video, but if he ever sees this video, I know he'll say that he is very in touch with his emotions, and he'll disagree with me until he's blue in the face. And this is it's a part of the problem. And again, it is the blindness that comes with being the ideal in a narcissistic system. When you are the ideal, you will I will say almost, you will never see the problems of the system when you are the ideal of the system. Like, not to say never, because you can awaken from the system and see it for what it is. But when you are the ideal, you will be the last to see it. You will be the last to see it every single time. If you are a man, you are going to be the last to see that the patriarchy is a problem. If you're a white person, you're going to be the last to see that racism is a problem. If you are if you're a pastor or a priest or a devout Christian, you are going to be the last person to see that Christianity is a problem.
Most people think a bad marriage happens because you picked the wrong person. That's only half the story. The real marriages that fall apart, the ones that destroy good people, happen when someone who was never built for commitment convinces themselves they want it anyway.
I only been married and living with someone. Well, I had lived with my son's dad before. I had lived a married life before. I wasn't married, but I lived a married life as the housekeeper, the mom, the maid. But I thought that I was so miserable in those relationships because it was such a high control environment, because I was in a relationship with a narcissist, because I was enslaved and I wasn't treated well. And so I assumed that my disdain for being controlled came from being with someone who was so controlling and didn't contribute anything. They just took, suck, but they never gave or poured into me. And so I assumed I was looking for that, a partner, someone who would give as much as they would take. And my husband is that. Like, he's a clean person. He does the cleaning while I did the cooking. He's just so attentive to my needs, so empathetic, just like a kind, sweet person. And he is still a man raised under the patriarchy. That's one. And then he is still a partner who expects things from you. That is two. So I would say the two biggest things that caused me to end up asking for a divorce from my best friend and the love of my life were those.
Because wanting marriage and being ready for marriage are two completely different things. And what one woman just admitted on the internet proudly is the most important warning sign men and women completely ignore before walking down the aisle. Before I get into this, I want to be clear about something. This video is not about tearing down a Black woman who is trying to figure out her life. It's not about saying women don't know what they want. What it is about is something much more important. The responsibility that comes with knowing yourself before you make a covenant with another person, and the danger of using a public platform to declare that an institution is broken simply because it was not the right fit for you.
I miss my friends. And I know someone's like, oh, Bree, you can do all these things while being married. And my husband has been saying that. And I've been trying to think through How can I have everything that I want? This complete and true sovereignty, because that's what I'm looking for. If you look up the word sovereign, because that's the word that keeps coming to my mind. The word sovereign means a supreme ruler, especially a monarch, or possessing supreme or ultimate power over myself. That is what I want. I want I want to be a sovereign being who has ultimate power, authority, and self rule, acting as the ultimate source of control in their own life, free from external domination, often involving taking ownership of one's choices, spiritual connection, and inner guidance rather than being controlled by others or circumstances. That is what it says to be a sovereign being. And that is what I want. I want to be a sovereign being. I want to make every single choice in my life to be a choice that I made by myself, for myself, with my own thoughts, my own feelings, my own intuition. I want just ultimate control. I don't want to have to run my thoughts past anyone. I don't want to have to say, hey, babe, I'll be home late tonight. Or, hey, yeah, I'm sleeping over Christy's house tonight. Or telling Christy, I can't sleep over tonight. I have to go home to my husband. Like, I don't want to do any of that. I don't want to do any of that. And it's like I said, it's not that and it's like, these are all things that I thought I wanted. That's the kicker. That's the kicker. That's the worst part, is like, I feel so bad that I have dated this wonderful human. I've loved him. He's loved me back. And we built this dream life together just for me to get everything I've ever wanted and then say, actually, I don't want this.
The first sign is this. This woman confused wanting the idea of marriage with actually wanting the responsibilities of partnership. She said it herself. She always believed she wanted to be a wife. But the moment she was living it, cooking dinner, structuring her time, being present after work, the reality did not match the vision she had been carrying her whole life. You cannot build a life with someone based upon the idea you have never honestly tested. I want to be transparent here because I went through my own version of this. I never wanted to marry for security or a paycheck. I wanted to marry because I loved the institution of marriage and believed in the covenant. But I kept finding, even in good relationships with good men, was that every time I stepped back and had space to breathe, I felt more at peace. And when that kept happening, I had to stop and ask God directly, what are you trying to show me? What he showed me was not that marriage was wrong. It was that I was not yet where I needed to be personally to enter it. That kind of honesty and self-assessment was rare in my generation, and even now. And it is exactly what this woman did not do before she walked down the aisle. The second sign is that her core identity was fundamentally incompatible with shared life. And she knew it before she said yes. She told you exactly who she is. Extroverted, impulsive, anti-structure, deeply in love with radical personal freedom. Those are not flaws, but they are facts that must be honestly accounted for before choosing a life that requires consistency and daily compromise.
I'm messy. I'm a little disorganized. I'm a little impulsive. But he was kind of all of the opposite of that. His dad was in the military, so he was raised by a military dad. So he had great organization. When like he was impeccable with his word. Like if he said he was going to do something, he did it. If he said he was going to do something, he did it. And I am not like that. I'm like, if I say I'm gonna do something, I might do it. I'll probably do it. I'll try to do it. I'll think about doing it. And I might get it done, but am I impeccable with my word? No. But so I always admired that about him. And it gave a lot of structure to my son, and he taught my son so much about, like, male hygiene, and just like what the expectations are as a male in this society, while of course mom was there saying, while these are the expectations of a male in this society, you don't have to adhere to them if you don't want to, unless they're like, again, personal hygiene, yes, you've got to shower on a daily basis and brush your teeth and floss. But do you have to present this way or do this or whatever? You don't. But he gave my son a different option of what a male looks like outside of his father, because his father is not a great example. All this time that we're together, we are, like I said, we are best friends. We are yin and yang. We are peanut. I always called him the peanut butter to my jelly because he is. And so he just balanced me out in every way that I could ask.
She admired every quality in that good man that she lacked. His discipline, his organization, his consistency. But admiring someone's qualities is not the same as being compatible with the lifestyle those qualities produce. She loved that he was structured. She did not love living inside of his structure. And instead of recognizing that as a compatibility issue, she stacked every small friction as evidence that marriage itself was the problem. Wow. The women who thrive in marriage are not women without strong personalities. They are women who understand their personality well enough to choose a partner that brings out their best, not their resistance. The third sign is the most important one for everyone with a platform to hear.
I haven't told, as of the recording of this video, I haven't told anyone except my husband. We've had this discussion, but I know whenever I tell my friends who are all looking for husbands, they're going to tell me I'm nuts for essentially throwing away a good one. When I tell my family, they're going to think I'm crazy. When I tell his family, because I love his family's amazing, I don't know if everyone's going to hate me. I don't think people will understand. Yeah, I don't think people are going to understand this decision. We could have had a really good life together, but that's not the life that I want. I know exactly what the life was that I signed up for and that I would have had. It would have been, we would have stayed together. I would have kept, making dinner and watching TV. We would have eventually had a kid. The kid would sign that kid up for school. I would have been in all kinds of school stuff. The kid, we may or may not we may or may not would have had to flee the country due to the current administration's attack on Black and brown people. But, if that didn't happen, it would have been a relatively eventless life. Like, I'm writing this book and I eventually would have finished it, and that probably would have been my biggest accomplishment. But outside of that, I don't think I would have done much with my life.
She framed her husband's reasonable expectations as patriarchal oppression. Cooking dinner became enslavement. His wanting quality time with her became control. People, listen, see how unreasonable this sounds. His concern about a scooter became proof that even the kindest men are infected by a broken system. Now, I am not dismissing the reality of control in relationships, but there is a significant difference between identifying genuine abuse of power and labeling every expectation within a mutual partnership as oppression. When a husband who pays every bill steps up for your son by another man, cleans the house, shows up emotionally every day, asks his wife to be present with him after work, that's not patriarchy. That is a person asking for the partnership he signed up for. And here is where the platform becomes dangerous. We have seen this pattern before. Whoopi Goldberg, Jada Pinkett Smith, Keke Palmer, Tiffany Haddish, and now Let's not mention it because I'm going to get to that one later. Leslie Jones. Wonderful, gifted women, women who may be uniquely designed for a life outside of traditional partnership, but who cannot seem to arrive at that conclusion without tearing down, demolishing brick by brick the institution on the way out. Your experience is valid, but your experience is not a universal truth. What was not built for you was not broken by you. The fourth sign is that she wanted sovereignty and security at the same time and expected one man to fund both. She wanted complete autonomy, no schedules, no accountability, full freedom. But she also wanted someone to pay every bill while she built her platform, co-parent her son, take her to Jamaica, and give her the title of wife. What she needed to admit and never did in that video, or probably to herself at this moment, is that what she wanted most was motherhood, not marriage. While raising her son alone, she discovered who she truly was. She was a woman built for independence, for singlehood, for self-direction. But instead of accepting that, she still wanted to experience marriage, even knowing deep down that she was not compatible with what marriage actually requires. And that decision had a very real cost for a real person, a real good man that somebody else could have married and made him completely happy. I watched this exact thing happen to a man I know, a quiet, intelligent computer engineer, a man who waited until late in life to marry because he took it seriously. He married a woman who presented herself as everything he needed. Once she had the child and the financial stability she came for, she decided she did not want the marriage anymore. When it ended, she took him to court and tried to take everything he had worked his entire life to build. That man did nothing wrong. He showed up exactly as advertised. The problem was that she was never honest, possibly not even with herself, about what she truly wanted versus what she was genuinely willing to give. Sovereignty is a legitimate calling, but it is not something you get to walk away with after another person has already invested their life, their finances, and their future into a version of you that was never fully true. The fifth sign is the one that closes the door on the conversation entirely. She took no accountability. Women, I am coming on here, bringing it to you, and you might think I'm bashing all the time. Women, we got to get it together. We have got to learn to be accountable. We have got to learn to address our issues honestly, self-reflect. This woman took no real accountability. In an hour of speaking on the internet, on her platform, broadcasting, she was divorcing a good man. She never once said, I should have known this about myself before I married him. She never said, I gave him a false picture of who I was and what I wanted. Every source of friction was outsourced to the patriarchy, to society, to the institution of marriage itself. And that is precisely why women in this position should not be standing at a microphone telling other women that the family structure God designed for order, for generational strength, and for covering of children is a trap. You need to silence the mic. You have no knowledge of who you are, much less to give advice to other women. Marriage was not designed for everyone, but it was designed by God. And it works when entered by people who are genuinely called to it, who know themselves, who choose it with clear eyes and a willing spirit. Singlehood is also a valid and honorable calling. The problem is not choosing it. The problem is not recognizing it early enough and then using your pain to dismantle what God built for those who are called to it. If this video made you think, I want you to do 3 things. Like the video, share it with someone who needs to hear it, and leave a thoughtful comment below. Tell me what you think. Here are 2 questions to consider as you respond. Do you believe there are women who are genuinely called to singlehood? And if so, what do you think is the difference between choosing that path with peace versus choosing it out of avoidance? And second, at what point does a woman's personal story become harmful public advice? The link to the video clip we discussed today is in the description. I'm Deborah, and this is Family Still Matters. Because family still matters, understanding God's purpose and design for our lives, whether that calling is marriage, singlehood, or the honest journey of discovering which one you were truly made for, is not optional. It is the foundation everything else is built on. Thank you for watching, and I look forward to seeing you next time. May God continue to richly bless you. And before I leave, I want to leave you with a scripture. Proverbs 19:14 says, houses and wealth are inherited from parents, but a prudent wife is from the Lord. Men, hear me. A prudent wife is from the Lord, and you must seek the Lord to find her. Know yourself, ladies, before you kneel at the altar. Know yourself before you ask someone else to build their life around you. Thank you, and may God continue to richly bless you. God bless.